The story begins deep in the middle of a massive, dense, and completely isolated forest where a single SUV slowly makes its way down a narrow road. Inside are three friends, Chris, Daniel, and Alicia, leaving behind the non-stop rush of everyday life for a peaceful weekend hiking trip in the wilderness. They've shared years of friendship since college, and their bond has always been strong. The drive is long. Eventually, Daniel pulls the SUV over in a quiet, deserted spot along the road because he needs to use the restroom. He steps out and heads alone into the thick brush, leaving only Chris and Alicia sitting inside the vehicle. An uneasy silence settles between them, filling the space with growing tension. Chris takes advantage of the moment and leans toward Alicia, bringing up something deeply personal that happened between them the night before. He speaks with genuine emotion, clearly taking it seriously. But the instant Alicia hears him, she becomes visibly uncomfortable. The quiet inside the SUV suddenly feels heavier than the forest surrounding them. Alicia immediately tells Chris to stop talking. She makes it clear that whatever happened between them the night before was nothing more than a mistake, one she never wants to think about again. Her words hit harder than Chris ever expected, and he quietly takes them in. A few minutes later, Daniel returns to the SUV with a smile, and the three friends continue their trip. Before long, they reach a much deeper part of the forest, where the trail becomes narrow and rocky. They find a safe place to park, because the rest of the route has to be covered on foot. Each of them shoulders their hiking packs and gear before heading farther in. Towering old trees and dense undergrowth surround them, making the forest feel even more mysterious. As they hike, Daniel starts telling them about the area's disturbing history to keep the conversation going. Every step carries them farther from civilization and deeper into the unknown. Daniel explains that during World War II, the Russian army dropped countless live bombs throughout this entire area. After the war ended, many of them remained buried beneath the ground. Even today, hikers occasionally discover unexploded bombs hidden beneath the trail. The story instantly changes the mood, replacing excitement with an unsettling sense of tension. During the conversation, it's also clear that Alicia and Daniel are deeply in love and planning to get married soon. The connection between them couldn't be stronger. Chris watches them together, but he can't hide the jealousy building inside him. He's clearly unhappy about their engagement, and the sadness on his face is impossible to miss. As the day slowly fades, the forest becomes darker and far more intimidating. Night blankets the woods in darkness, and with the temperature dropping fast, they decide to set up camp in a small, open clearing. The forest grows silent, as if it's waiting for something to happen. After setting up their tents, they gather dry firewood and build a campfire to stay warm. The yellow glow of the flames flickers across all three of their faces as they sit around it together. Daniel notices Chris has been unusually quiet, as if something heavy has been weighing on his mind. Being a good friend, Daniel asks, "Why do you look so down, man? Is something seriously bothering you?" Chris hides the truth and brushes it off with a fake smile. He tells Daniel not to worry about him, since he and Alicia are getting married soon. Daniel smiles and jokes that getting married doesn't mean he'll stop partying with Chris. The joke lightens the mood, and the three of them laugh together. Later that night, Alicia and Daniel head into their tent to sleep, while Chris puts out the fire and goes into his own tent. The next morning, Chris wakes up and spots a stranger going through their gear, apparently trying to steal from them. Without making a sound, Chris quietly moves in behind the stranger and attacks him. Chris starts beating the man before the stranger panics and shouts that his name is Dave and that he's Daniel's friend. Since Chris has never met him before, he doesn't believe him and refuses to let him go. The commotion brings Daniel and Alicia rushing out of their tent to see what's happening. They quickly tell Chris to stop. Chris finally lets Dave go, apologizes, and the two introduce themselves. Daniel explains that he invited Dave to take some good photos of them during the trip. Dave asks the three of them to stand in front of some thick bushes for a group photo. They follow his instructions and take their places, but as Dave looks through the camera, he notices something metallic beneath Chris's boot. He immediately tells everyone not to move and warns Chris, "Don't move an inch, you're standing on a bomb." Daniel drops to his knees to take a closer look and realizes it's a landmine. If Chris lifts his foot even slightly, it will explode. The realization sends a wave of fear through everyone standing there. Dave tells everyone to stay calm and explains they'll need professional help, which could take 4 or 5 hours. For safety, nobody should stay close to Chris, but Daniel sends Dave to get help and refuses to leave Chris's side. Alicia begs Daniel to step away, but he refuses to abandon his friend. He tells her he'll stay with Chris until help arrives because he can't leave him alone like this. Chris also tells Daniel to leave, but Daniel won't listen. Instead, he sends Alicia farther away. A moment later, Daniel finally gets a cell signal. His call goes through, and Alicia feels an overwhelming sense of relief. Daniel asks them to send a bomb disposal expert as quickly as possible. Then, without warning, Daniel suddenly ends the call and tells Alicia that they're refusing to help because of her. Alicia stares at him in confusion, unable to understand what he's talking about. Daniel claims the police said they don't help people like them before walking back toward Chris. Alicia breaks down in in tears and tells Daniel she was going to tell him the truth before the wedding. She begs him to forgive her and call the police again. Daniel calmly reveals there was never any signal at all. He only pretended to make the call to teach her a lesson. That's when the truth finally comes out about what happened between Chris and Alicia. Earlier in the SUV, Chris had been trying to bring up that very secret with Alicia. Chris had fallen in love with her, and the two of them slept together once. Alicia saw it as a mistake and chose to leave it behind, but Chris still believed she loved him. When Daniel found out about the affair, he secretly planned this entire trip to take revenge on both of them. The camping trip was never about hiking. It was always about revenge. The landmine had been planted there by Daniel himself. It was all part of his plan to trap Chris and Alicia, and Dave had been working with him the entire time. Daniel brings over a shovel, hands it to Alicia, and tells her she's Chris's only chance of surviving. He tells her to dig a hole so she can save him. Then Daniel removes the landmine safety pin, throws it into the forest, gathers his gear, and starts walking away. Alicia desperately tries to stop him, but he ignores her and leaves. Dave is already waiting for him, and the two of them disappear into the woods together. Left alone, Alicia searches the forest until she finds the safety pin and brings it back. She tries to put the pin back into the landmine, but can't. To keep Chris calm, she lies and tells him she managed to put it back in. Even so, she warns him not to move his foot because they still can't trust that the pin will hold. She knows one wrong move could still trigger the explosion. Alicia decides to dig a hole first, so Chris will have a chance to survive. She starts digging with the shovel when a hunter arrives with his dog and spots both of them. The dog lunges at Alicia, but the hunter quickly pulls it back before it reaches her. The hunter points his rifle at them. Alicia desperately explains that Chris is standing on a landmine and that they came there for a hiking trip but ended up trapped. At first, the hunter believes they're murderers who buried someone there, but when Alicia begs for help, he slowly realizes they're telling the truth.
The hunter finally agrees to help, but only after asking how they ended up there. His name is Ilya. Alicia tries to hide the truth, but Ilya tells her he won't help unless she tells him everything. As he's about to leave, Alicia finally admits that she and Chris slept together. Alicia explains that her fiancé planned all of this to get revenge on both of them. Ilya asks what he'll get in return for helping. Alicia offers him everything she owns if he'll help save Chris. Excited, Ilya immediately searches through her backpack. When he finds a pair of panties, he tells Alicia he doesn't want that pair. He wants the one she's wearing. He begins forcing himself on her. Chris tries to stop him and offers him the $300 he has with him, but Ilya refuses. He says he doesn't want money, and if Alicia refuses, he'll leave them there to die. With no other choice, Alicia agrees. As she starts walking toward the tent to change, Ilya stops her and says she has to take them off right there. Desperate to save Chris, Alicia removes her panties and gives them to him. Only then does Ilya finally start digging with the shovel to help them. While Ilya is digging, the sound of a radio suddenly comes from his backpack. It's a handheld radio. Alicia immediately begs him to let her use it so she can call for help. Instead, Ilya asks what he'll get in return. Alicia pleads with him, but he throws her panties into the distance and tells her she has to pick them up with her mouth like a dog. She refuses at first and goes back to digging, but eventually she's forced to do exactly what he says. After that, Ilya finally lets her use the radio to call for help. Alicia contacts the emergency dispatcher, but the officer on the other end doesn't understand English, so she can't explain what happened. She asks Ilya to call for help in Georgian instead, but once again, he makes another demand. He says he'll call for help only if she undresses first. Alicia tells him to leave, while the dispatcher keeps asking for a response over the radio. The chance to save Chris slips farther away with every passing second. Ilya tells Alicia to answer the dispatcher by saying that everything is fine. If she doesn't, he says the police could open a poaching case against him. Since Alicia doesn't speak Georgian, Ilya says he'll translate for her, but only if she keeps taking off her clothes, one piece at a time. Threatened by him, Alicia is forced to remove her top before giving her first response. After that, the dispatcher doesn't ask another question, so, according to their deal, Ilya starts walking away. But then the dispatcher speaks over the radio again, forcing Ilya to run back. Terrified, Alicia begs him to leave, but instead, he holds her at gunpoint. Chris distracts Ilya long enough for Alicia to run, but Ilya immediately chases after her with his dog. While they're gone, Chris manages to pull Ilya's gun within reach using a chain. The balance of power suddenly shifts, but only for a moment. By the time Ilya returns with Alicia, Chris is pointing the gun at him and demands that he let her go. Ilya refuses. Chris wants to pull the trigger, but he's terrified the bullet might hit Alicia instead. Just as he's about to fire, Ilya's dog attacks Chris and knocks him into the pit. The gun goes off and the bullet strikes Alicia. When Chris regains consciousness, he discovers Alicia is dead and the landmine was fake all along. The horrifying truth shatters him and he breaks down in uncontrollable grief. He realizes his anger and one terrible mistake have destroyed the woman he loved forever. A few months later, Chris approaches a family and tells them he's a tourist who's gotten lost and can't find a place to buy a map. The woman and her daughter kindly offer to print one for him, so Chris goes inside the house. What seems like a simple visit is really the beginning of something far darker. That's when it's revealed that the family belongs belongs to Ilya, who is away working at the time. After the map is printed, Chris starts to leave, but the woman invites him to stay for lunch. The moment Ilya walks into his home and sees Chris sitting there, he's completely stunned. He immediately tells Chris to step outside. His wife and daughter have no idea what's happening. Pretending he'll give Chris a ride, Ilya takes him outside and begs him to leave. He says he doesn't want his family dragged into any of this and promises to meet Chris alone in an hour. Chris appears to agree, but he has no intention of walking away. A short time later, Chris injures Ilya's dog and uses it as an excuse to return to the house. Ilya rushes to grab his gun, but Chris shoots both of his legs first. Then he orders Ilya's wife and daughter to bring him inside before tying up his wife's hands. The revenge Daniel started has now consumed Chris completely. Chris pulls out Alicia's panties and tells Ilya to explain to his family exactly why he's there. Trembling, Ilya admits that whenever he's drunk, he does terrible things. Chris decides to treat Ilya's daughter the same cruel way Ilya treated Alicia. He loads a single random round into his pistol and orders Ilya's daughter to undress. He tells her that if the gun doesn't fire before she's finished, she'll survive, but her luck runs out. The gun fires on the very first round, killing her instantly. The moment she dies, Chris realizes the horrifying monster he's become. Overcome with guilt, he pounds his chest and breaks down in tears. Even though Chris once was a good man, this brutal cycle of revenge transforms him into someone just as cruel as the people he hated. In the end, the question remains, was Chris right to take revenge this way, or should he have left Alicia's innocent family out of this bloody nightmare? Sometimes revenge doesn't punish the guilty, it destroys everyone it touches. Some people survive the nightmare, but the nightmare never leaves them. Maybe that's what makes stories like this so unsettling. They don't end when the screen goes black, they stay with you. If you want to experience more unforgettable survival stories like this, stay with KTS Mosan, because sometimes the darkest scars are the ones no one else can see.